Welcome back to the Weekly Driver Podcast. My name is James Rea. My co-host is Bruce Aldrich. I'm the editor and publisher of theweeklydriver.com, and I write a syndicated automotive column for Bay Area News Group. Today we're going to go into a different part of the automotive world. Actually, it's the recreational vehicle world, and my co-host Bruce and his wife just got back from, I believe, about 3 weeks, their second time in a recreational vehicle, and they went from where we do our podcast from Sacramento to the Grand Canyon and had all kinds of great experiences. So today we're going to focus on Bruce's trip to the Grand Canyon and all of that encompassed in his second time in an RV. Bruce, welcome. What's going on? I know you have a lot to share today with your trip.
Hi, James. Relaxing. That's the key word on motorhome travel.
Yes.
We just loved it. We didn't take our dog this time. Last time, the beauty of a motorhome, you can take your pets with you. We didn't take him this time. That's probably a whole other show why we didn't. He had sort of anger issues, so we sent him off to camp. So we went without him, but an RV is a great time with your pet. Anyway, we traveled 2,540 miles in 17 days. So probably not a lot of driving. I don't know how many days that is on average, but our longest days were 6 and 7 hours driving. So those were long days, but they were only a few. We went to see Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, Arches Lands, and also we went to Zion, which probably was the highlight of the trip.
So I'm going to go backwards a little bit. You and your wife, Alene, weren't in the RV world, but a little while ago when you did it for the first time, what was the precipitation of you guys getting involved with RVs? Was it a friend who had done it, and how did you make that leap into the RV world at in a middle age that you'd never done before? How did that whole thing start for you guys?
I think it basically was for our dog, and if you take off, everybody wants. I think there's some adventure in every one of us. At least there is people I know. You want to get in that car and do a road trip. That's just great. That's America, right?
Yes.
Freedom. So we wanted to do a road trip, and we wanted to take our dog, and so that kind of limits you, because if you have to stay in hotels, motels, there just aren't that many animal-friendly places. So RV was it.
Mm-hmm. So the first time, what kind of RV did you have the first time, or motorhome, and then how did you decide? I know you had a different one this time. Can you tell me about the first experience with that vehicle as opposed to the most recent experience with the other vehicle that you had?
Well, we started out last year about this time with a 25-footer, and it had one slide out. A slide out makes the cabin wider, so you have more room inside once you park. But we decided to go a little bigger this time, and that's sort of the way. You always go big or go home.
Right.
So we got a 27-footer, but this one had 3 slide-outs, so it was really bigger than just the extra 2 feet, because 3 feet is the bed that slides out the back. So that, to me, I think just that 2 feet gave you really 5 feet of interior space. And then it had a slide-out for a wardrobe area, and then a slide-out for the main dining and kitchen area.
What brands are we talking about here? How did you come to get the second motorhome?
Well, both of these motorhomes were rented from a local place in Sacramento called Happy Days RV, and they had it's a Ford chassis, and it's called Sunseeker by Forest River was the manufacturer, and we really enjoyed them.
Not being an RV guy at all, but you and I have both driven lots of different cars, sports cars to big cars, trucks, and so forth. So for me to jump into an RV and try that kind of excursion, what is the learning curve? And the second time around, we are far more comfortable than the first time around. And so talk about, if you can, the driving experience of being in a motorhome or an RV as opposed to just being in a passenger car.
Well, the darn thing is 101 inches wide. I think that's something like 8.5 feet wide. And I know the Subaru my daily driver is 5.5 feet wide. Mm-hmm. So that extra 3 feet is something you have to deal with. But on the open road, on a freeway, there's super wide lanes. It goes down the road really nice. There's no problems. The problems come into if you add a bumpy road or wind. They're quite a big sail up there.
Yes.
And then heavy traffic. And when you add those things become a handful. I found very tiring because you got to be on that thing. There's no texting or, listening to the wife or anything. You have to concentrate. So fortunately, you don't have all those factors piled up at once. If you just add, curvy road or bumpy road, then that's okay. You're still not texting, but you're semi okay. But you start adding the other factors, it's a handful.
Did you guys run into a situation, considering you're in an area where there's the weather can change all the time? Did you guys have to stop at some point because of the weather, or did you manage to get through your trip without anything that was too extreme?
We had beautiful weather. It was mid-high 60s and sunny. We never saw a cloud for 17 days, so we had perfect weather. We did have windy days, and most of them were tailwinds, which are okay, but you get the side winds and the frontal wind, boy, the coach becomes it becomes a handful. You got the wheel, it looks like you're sawing wood, handling that wheel up there.
I think you told me that you had a flat tire. And so were you able to take care of that yourself, or did you have someone come out and help you, or what was that like, a flat tire in a car, but a lot different than a flat tire in a motorhome?
Well, it's a bit different. We have no tools and no jack for this thing. It's a behemoth. The thing, the gross vehicle weight is like, oh my goodness, it's like 12,000 pounds, I believe. It's a heavy beast.
Yeah.
So no, we had to call somebody, but what happened was the flat was overnight, and there was a guy next to us who had a pump. So he put air in the tire. He put about 40 pounds in it, and we limped about 4 miles into town to a tire shop, and they took care of it.
Okay. Now, obviously, motorhomes and passenger cars or trucks have different specs. So tell me about what you determined in terms of gas mileage or speed that you traveled, and how was that different than being in your Subaru, for example, which I know you have. So talk about what you discovered and how that trip went for you in terms of the economics of the trip.
Yeah, the economics. Well, first of all, the whole price, it came to about $217 per day on our trip.
Yes. Which
is, more than cheap hotels, but not only a hotel you have to leave in the morning and you don't get back till at night, this hotel rolls with you. So It's really nice for stopping anytime you want, use the bathroom anytime you want, having lunch anytime you want. Plus the hotel room, you have to go out for all your meals.
Yes.
And the motorhome, you got your fridge, you got your beer,
all that
anything you need right there.
Right.
And so you get to use it all day long. So when you add those type of things, maybe that $217 a day is not so bad. What was interesting, I thought, with the gas, it came out to $2.67 per gallon. It was the average cost of all of our gas, which was, I bet you, I don't know if we're ever going to see that again. Some was lower in some states, some was higher. Of course, California's higher.
Yes.
But that was the average. And we spent $561 to go 2,540 miles.
Okay.
And that averages, so it was 211 gallons that we burned. And anyway, the grand total, you'll never guess the mileage on this thing.
No, I have no idea.
Well, if we heard horror stories, 8 and 9.
Yes.
And I guess this is a horror story too, but it was better than that 8 and 9. Anyway, it came out to 12.02 miles per gallon.
That's not so bad, actually.
And that, for some reason, I got a real soft shoe.
Yeah.
So I was amazed at that, 12.02 miles per gallon.
And so when you're driving on the open roads, like in a car, you want to have a relaxful drive. You want to have a consistent drive. So I'm assuming that you had cruise control.
Yeah, I think cruise control is the way to go, and it makes it so much more relaxing. You're looking left at the left mirror, the right mirror, and then at the rear view mirror, and there's a backup camera. So you're constantly scanning. At least for me, it's your eyeballs really work overtime. I didn't need to be going down looking at the speedometer at the same time. So cruise control helps, and I just don't go very fast. Hey, I cruise along. I'm not in a hurry. I'm trying to relax.
Yes.
So I only went 62, 63, 64 miles per hour tops, and that probably helps the gas. And on the big hills, I rarely went over 2,500 RPM holding it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, occasionally on a short, steep one or something, I'd go to 3,500 RPM. But mostly I'm just loping that big old 6.8 liter just really slow. I'm easy on it.
One of the things about, as you mentioned earlier, about adventure and freedom and being on the open road, did you guys have an itinerary set? I knew that you had to be at one particular place during a certain number of days to do a half marathon in the Grand Canyon, but on the other days, did you guys have a set itinerary, or did you just say, hey, let's see where the road takes us today, and we'll find a place, or did you have your reservations? So in terms of the travel and the organization of a trip like this, how did you guys approach that?
Yes, we did a little of both. So the first 6 days we knew we had to be in Grand Canyon at the South Rim because we did a half marathon run there. Mm-hmm. And so we stayed 3 nights there. We had reservations, all good. It was perfect. Then our next stop was we decided we wanted to go to Page, Utah, and to see the Slot Canyon. So we just took off, got a campground there, no problems. And we did what we wanted to do there, and then we had reservations in Zion on, like a day later or something.
Yes.
And we had 3 nights in Zion, and that was good because there was no camping around Zion. Unless you had a reservation, you were out of luck. Mm-hmm. So that was perfect. And then after that, we just winged it. Mm-hmm. And where the road takes it, we decided, that morning what roads to take from Zion up to near Moab, Utah.
Mm-hmm. Did you, when you camped, I know that you met up with some friends, but what was the experience like? I've never done it. I've met, in particular, one friend when he travels, and I've gone into RV campgrounds, and some of them are very elaborate, some of them are very simple. So what was your experience when you drove into a place and you met strangers, or did you meet with other people that you had organized part of the trip with?
We met some friends there for the half marathon, which was really fun the first night, because then we did go out to restaurants and celebrated our victories at the marathon.
Yes.
and that type of thing, and that was fun to have people around that we knew. But the RV parks are really friendly. Most people are over 50 there.
Yes.
Nobody's got any. Everybody's helpful. If you needed something, you could get it. Really nice folks, and they're out dog walking and just hanging out. It's really a relaxing time in the RV parks.
So, give me some observations from this trip, and there were certain things that you saw that stuck in your mind. The kind of people you saw on the road, the different kinds of vehicles. What did you see that stuck out to you? As a person traveling for 17 days in an RV, remember those old games you used to look for different states' license plates or things like that? So, what did you and your wife see that was memorable in terms of what the open road's like?
Well, memorable was probably we went down south on 99, which is a major thoroughfare north-south in California. We were on that road for 6 hours the first day.
Yes. And
it's all in California, and we're looking at the Priuses. They're everywhere. They're just like VWs were back in the 60s.
Yes.
So, but as soon as you hit the state line, it seemed, into Utah, the Priuses vanished. And I thought that was just funny.
Yes.
Now it became, there were still a lot of sedans, but it was pickup trucks and, of course, over-the-road big rigs. Mm-hmm. But the Priuses left. It's a California thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And we saw, once we get into the area of the national parks, I guess they were rentals probably. I've never seen so many convertible Mustangs and convertible Camaros.
Really?
That seemed to be, it had to be convertible, rental vehicles.
Right.
None of them had the top down. I guess that's the lure, is they have the top down, but after the first day you find out, oh boy, it's the blustering wind, the hot sun.
Sunburn,
you don't want to do that anymore, but they had the convertibles.
Yes.
And then one thing I noted when we were in Utah, and you probably wouldn't even realize it in a sedan, but the precautionary signs like, slow down for curve ahead, right or left turn, and speed down. Boy, you notice it in the motorhome because they don't stop too hot. You're
Right,
not in a stop. You're driving a truck on these things, and
Yes.
so I like the precautionary signs, but there weren't enough of them in Utah compared to California.
Yes. And anything else that you came across? Was there were there some downsides, or were there things that you say, oh, gee, here we are again, and I did this the wrong way, and I'm learning. Maybe I didn't see a curb, or there was something I did. Did you run into any animals? Did you have any problems with animals on the open road? Anything like that was something that you didn't expect out of the ordinary?
Well, lots of deer crossing signs. I saw a lot of dead deer, but fortunately I didn't run into any.
Yeah.
So we saw animals out there. We saw antelope. Antelope were in Nevada. We saw wild boar one day near the Grand Canyon. That we had to slow down for these two.
Yes.
These two little
fantastic. I love
these two
it.
big piglets went just mumbling, waddling across the road.
Yeah.
And we saw a couple of we saw lots of deer, and then we also saw elk.
Oh, great!
Which are big deer, really.
Really,
to me.
Anybody stupid like take the photo? I'm going to put my arm around the elk. I've been on the road and you see people doing that, and you think that's a wild animal. It's going to kill you. So
no, these were around Grand Canyon. These elk, and they look like you could walk up to them, but no, I wouldn't want to walk up to an elk.
No. So if you were me or anybody else, a friend or some sort of a business associate or anybody you come across, and they said, "Oh, I've been thinking about RVing, but I don't know if I could really do that." So give me some idea of if you're a first timer, what do you suggest? Like, do you suggest getting all your reservations? Do you suggest just winging it and having fun and being free, like you said earlier, or what would be your entry level guide, if you will, for somebody like me? I've never rented an RV. I've never stayed in an RV. So what are some tips for the first timer that you can think of that would be good?
Well, tips for the first timer, I guess it's kind of like somebody asked, what's the best car?
Right.
Well, what's your mission? What do you want to do with it?
Right.
So in RVing, I guess the first question is, when are you going? So is it peak travel time?
Yes.
In the summer? Well, yeah, you have to have reservations.
Yes.
If not, I think serendipitous is the way I like to do it. But
sure.
if you know,
that's how you roll.
Yeah. But if you know you got to be in Timbuktu on a certain date so you can watch the playoff game or the NASCAR race, then you have to plan a little more. One of the things about RVing is that you can, what I call stealth camping.
Yes.
You can stay at a truck stop. You can stay along anywhere in the basically in the national forest or a Bureau of Land Management land. You can camp.
Yes.
So you can park along the side of the road some places, not along the freeway, but a 2-lane. So if
a Walmart parking lot too. I think.
Walmart parking lot.
Yes.
So yes, perfect. So that's one good thing about RVing is the serendipity of just being able to park practically anywhere.
Yes.
And then another goal was where you're going to stay. And like when you're doing the national parks, you have to be somewhat maneuverable to get in and out. So a big long trailer or a mobile home pulling a car, that's a whole nother level of complexity that I don't want to get involved in.
Yes.
Of course, and then the shorter's better. The Sprinter vans by Mercedes,
yes,
for example, the smaller units, it's easier to get around in. So
yes.
You have to decide what you're trying to do. Trailers for us just would be out of it.
Right.
They're just too long and you can't back up.
Well, the other thing is kind of maybe a little bit of a unusual question, but I think it probably is relevant too. So you're traveling with your spouse, or you're traveling with a buddy, let's say, or two buddies, or 3 women are going out together. But you're in the confines of a motorhome together, and you're spending all of your time together, pretty much. So, did you guys have to, being a little personal, did you have to say, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, and you're going to use the bathroom, or I'm going to go read for an hour, or I'm going to go for a run? Did you spend all of your time together, or did you guys find some time for yourselves, or that's not part of the equation for you guys?
Well, my spouse and I, it's not part of the equation. We did everything together.
Yes.
So that was good. And now if you had a third wheel, your buddy or something,
right,
or there was 2 couples.
Yes.
For me, it just wouldn't work.
Right.
You're too confined.
Yes.
But you and your spouse, girlfriend, and your dog, hey,
right,
that's perfect. It's fine.
Okay, great. Well, let's see, Bruce, what else, when you got back, I know that you had some time that, you went to all these beautiful places, Zion, the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, and so when you drove back, and like any vacation, you're having this great time, and then you come back, and it's kind of a little bit of a downer, so you guys made some long hauls at the end of the trip, and how did you get through, for lack of a better word, the monotony of driving 8 hours on Interstate 80 back from wherever to Sacramento? How did you deal with that part of the trip?
Yes, there is some monotony. That at the beginning of our trip was our longest day, 411 miles, and it's just boring. I don't care what you say.
Right.
And at the end of our trip, we had a 395-mile journey across Highway 80 into Nevada, and Nevada into California and home, and that is pretty long, boring stuff.
Yes.
And you're trying to decompress, and I don't know. That was no fun.
Right.
But you got to keep it short. And hey, if you don't want to, we had a time constraint at the end.
Right.
My wife still works, so she had to get back for work. But if you're retired, it doesn't matter. So you get tired of driving it, you pull over, you camp. That's the beauty of it.
Or you look for the next Starbucks down the road, and you stop and you relax for a couple hours. So what? You don't have to, like I say, there's no time constraints. So if you're in that category, I could see you could break up these long hauls by, hey, we're going to go to lunch at Spot X, and then we're going to have a little relaxing time over here. So you have a lot more leeway if you don't have to be back at a certain time, obviously.
Yes, the leeway factor is big. We did that too. I didn't, when I say it was a long haul, maybe 7 hours of driving, at 7 hours would be over probably 9 hours.
Yes.
I would stop. We could have lunch. That's the beauty. You just walk in the back, make your lunch. You don't have to look for the, your favorite fast food joint or whatever.
Right.
You stop and eat your own food when you want to.
Well, that's great, Bruce. I appreciate you sharing that your second experience in an RV, and obviously it sounds like you would do it again. And so thanks for joining us on the Weekly Driver podcast. My name is James Rea, editor and publisher of theweeklydriver.com. Please check out my site. And thanks, Bruce, my co-host, for sharing his 17 days on the road and his second experience with he and his wife in their motorhome. See you next time.
See ya.